What's up, gamers? Today we're going to be having a look at Gloomwood. Now, this is still in early access, with it first crawling out of its gutter back in 2022. It was published by the New Blood Interactive, and it's being developed by the same four guys who helped to create Dusk, A Medieval, and the ever-popular Ultrakill. Now, for this playthrough, I was playing it on Half Moon, which is normal mode. And as of this writing, the latest bit of content to come out was the Lampfire Power Station, which I will not be showing in this review, though it will contribute to it in some aspects. But enough with the chatter. The doctor is about to make a house call, so let's go ahead and peel back the skin and start the dissection. Upon waking up in a small pitted cell full of rubbish and filth, you overhear guards above you talking about your soon-to-be transfer to the city gates.
Carriage. They want us to bring him to the city gates.
As they walk away, a shadowed figure refers to you as the good doctor and tosses you a ring that plays the role as your only real HUD.
Good doctor. What an unfortunate predicament you found yourself in. Kidnapped and brought here, of all places. Well, if you listen to me, you may yet survive this night. Here, this ring should help you stay out of the light. You have many enemies here. The darkness will shroud you from them.
As he walks away, he blows a fuse box and disappears into the night so you can escape your cell. And from there, you slowly make your way towards the city, evading or killing your captors and the creatures of the island along the way. But the story is mostly conveyed via eavesdropping or notes with some direct interactions with the shopkeeper and a mysterious faceless woman calling herself the Countess. All the NPCs either refer to you as Doctor or Outsider, but there isn't a whole lot of explicit storytelling, though there are hints that there is something in the land that's making the people go absolutely mad and get horrifically violent. This is a very minimalist sort of approach to storytelling, which I'm alright with, at least in a game of this style. Though, if you're not interacting with or picking up notes along the way, or if you're missing them as you go along the way, you can feel lost and be completely unsure of what to do to progress forward next, which did happen to me on one or two occasions. Now on to gameplay. Stealth is a huge focus on this. Enemies are tough and they will not go down easy once you aggro them. Even on lower difficulties, it can take upwards of 8 to 12 swings with your sword to bring them down. And while firearms will be more effective, ammo can be rather sparse when compared against the massive numbers that they have against you and how little damage you can actually take. Now, it uses a more grounded style of HUD that I adore. There's no health bar, no ammo counter, and your visibility is displayed on the ring that you're gifted at the start, which it's pitch black for when you're near invisible, or it's a bright shining orange when you're pretending to be Lady Lamplight. Your gun reloading is done manually as well as checking its ammo. So for the Magnum, you actually have to pop the bullets out and then replace them with fresh ones one by one, same with shells. And your flare gun, all that stuff. Inventory, for those of you that have played Resident Evil 4, they handle the inventory the same way. It's the attaché case style. It tells you how much ammo's in the weapons when you look in there, but you can also carry random junk items like bottles or, say, syringes to heal, food items, or even if you want to make a new friend and bring him along with you, like my friend Steve here, you can do that too. And then pull them out and throw them for distractions or whatever else may be needed. Areas are dense and allow for multiple approaches to a given problem. You can sneak around the guards, throw a ball to distract them, and then quietly slip past or kill them with a fully charged staff from your cane sword, or stack some boxes to climb to a ledge and get access to other areas earlier, or even break a board to slip out a window and take to the rooftops. There's almost always more than one approach to a given problem or area. But like a lot of other stealth games, movement is slower and far more deliberate. The mantling to climb a ledge is very slow, but that mantling does allow it for you to have some parkouring. Saving can only be done at phonographs unless you're on the easiest difficulty, which allows you to save pretty much anywhere, or on the hardest where it requires a wax cylinder to be added to the phonograph to save, sort of like the ink ribbons from old RE titles. Something else that's fun though is that traps will work on you and the enemies, so if you find a bear trap, you can actually toss it out and have an enemy walk into it and get pinned into them, where they will scream for help from nearby guards to have them try and get them out of it. But they're vulnerable while they're in that trap, so you can actually get some free hits in or finish them before that happens. Now, with how slow you usually move and how much traversal there can be per area, they've also implemented a mirror world, which as you'll unlock later on in the game, but you'll be able to go into a mirrored world where you can just quick travel to set points in the map for each area. Though, with that said, the latest areas do not have a mirror in them for you to travel to because it hasn't been fully implemented into the mirror world yet. Now, back to stealth, it can be incredibly broken. When it's pitch black, enemies can't even really see you until you're pretty much right on them and hugging them. And most enemies will also go down with a single charge stab when you're in stealth, but there's only a small handful of enemies that don't seem to follow this rule. Though those ones will be fairly obvious, be it they're larger in size or they're wearing metal armor. But now that we've seen how it plays, how does everything look? Gloomwood goes for a low poly style that suits its eerie landscape quite well. The guards all have sight cones that can be disabled if you so choose, though to me it's more fitting to have them on. It only seems to be on the regular huntsman guards so far that I've seen, but it gives them more of a menacing look. Everything in the area though, it's in a sort of early electrical age. Your guards have rifles and wood axes, but candles and lanterns are still seeing a lot of use, though you will actually encounter areas that have powered lights and generators, as well as small elevators and even it's sort of like a car, but they call it a carriage. But the world feels downtrodden, rotten, gloomy, and diseased. But because of that, they also use a lot of great environmental storytelling. For instance, in the fishery where you start the game, if you go exploring around and find the upper office, you can find a noose with a knocked over chair in that office. But then looking around the office a little more, you can find a note from the manager who was working there that's specifically damning a woman named Sylvia, which I would assume led to his eventual. But not only does it have that great environmental storytelling, it also uses light and shadow very effectively. Some areas are so dark that it's like walking into the void. It's pitch black all around you unless you happen to pull out your lantern, which you can miss. I repeat, you can miss the lantern, though there are a few places you can find them. And without it, some of these areas are so dark you can't even see your hands, let alone actually explore them or know if you're moving anywhere. Which I absolutely love that they actually do areas that dark because it's very uncommon in many stealth games and horror games now to actually make areas that dark that you cannot see. And now on to sound, which, depending on how you feel about these sorts of things, it can be a mixed bag or it can be really good. The music in the game, it all fits in fairly thematically, though you could mistake some of it for ambient noise depending on the areas. Though there are a select few standout areas, such as the Slaughtered Goat Inn, that are enough to really get your blood going to a chill from how much danger you can feel that you're in from that sound alone. Now, the phonographs actually play a specific song, though there is one variation to it. I believe it's at the lighthouse, but you can always hear them from a pretty good distance, so you at least know when you're getting close to a safe spot or anywhere where you can actually save your game. But a lot of the noises are also fairly well done, with crashing waves, slow drips from leaky roofs, and cave stalactites. The guard voices are also really nice. They're deep and give some hint to them not even being wholly human.
There. Now there's no way the outsider can escape.
You dunderhead, why did you do that? You didn't ring the alarm.
But now we've made sure he can't get away.
How do you think they're going to cart him to the city now?
We'll build a new bridge.
Shut up.
Animalistic sounds are also very unsettling when first heard, and there is a specific large monster that has a very unnerving sound, and anytime it moves close to you causes screen shake to emphasize its strength and threat to you. Firearms as well are satisfying to shoot. Your guns sound powerful, and the added touch of hearing a used casing or shell hit the floor is also just wonderful. Everything from the sound of explosions to the meaty chunks from a gibbed enemy splattering all over the floor and walls, it's all very well done. Now, with all the good things I've had to say about the game, I did find some issues with it. The AI pathing is very hit or miss. Sometimes they'll be able to path to you pretty cleanly without any issues, but then there's some areas, usually involving jumps or ledges, where they'll clip themselves into the floor or get themselves glitched into the ledge itself and then can't move. The AI also isn't very responsive to stimuli such as sound or lights being turned off or doors left open, things like that. I only ever got them to react to a door being opened a single time. Any other time they just ignored me doing it or ignored me knocking out torches or lamps. Maybe it was just a difficulty thing. But the view range for them is also a bit inconsistent. Some areas it seems they can actually see quite a distance, usually if they're on the rooftops, but then other times they can only see at best 15 feet in front of them, if that. The AI also can break pretty easily and end up in a loop of searching endlessly in one spot. I think this seems to happen more often in areas that require a key to open a specific door, and the AI doesn't have the key necessarily to open it. So they'll all crowd one area in an attempt to search it, but they won't actually be able to do anything, and they'll just sit there and keep bumping into each other repeatedly. The only other real issue I had was that movement can feel very sluggish when you're trying to just explore, having to retread an area, and you definitely feel the lack of a sprint button, especially when enemies are closing in on you, because all the enemies in the game move faster than you unless you holster your weapon. And even then, it definitely feels like some of the enemies still move faster than you with weapon sheath, which is when you are at your fastest. Now, before we get into the final verdict for this review, I'd like to give some tips for those of you who do decide to get the game that I wish I'd had when I started. It's possible to skip large segments of the map simply from jumping onto wall lights or using the flare gun's baton bullet to hit levers and switches. This leads into the density of the maps, be it you don't necessarily have to use this ring or this key to open a door when you can find a window and break it to climb in, or maybe do some parkouring across lights to get up to a higher spot instead of trying to go through different houses. Next would be any sources of fire can eliminate a corpse. You kill a guard and then his torch-carrying buddy, who just so happens to be hanging out nearby, and when he falls down, the torch stays lit for a few more seconds. If the torch makes contact with the first body, it'll light that body on fire and the other one next to him, and quickly they'll both be turned into ashes and dispose of the evidence. You can also do this with fireplaces, campfires, and the like, though with the cost being that any items they may have been carrying will be gone. So you can't loot their guns or anything like that. Once you reach the store, you can buy a monocle. It isn't really necessary right now, but the zoom feature that gives you can be useful for scouting areas. If you're familiar with other stealth games like Thief, they have a sort of built-in zoom function. When you play, make sure you explore every environment thoroughly so you don't miss out on potential loot such as new guns early or gems, because you can actually get like a lantern fairly early on. You can find a shotgun pretty early on. There's at least 4 or 5 different revolvers you can get just in the early area of the game. Now, this next one is huge, and I wish I'd have known it sooner. I could have gotten so much more loot because of it. You can equip your cane sword to your melee slot by using the mouse wheel to change tabs in your inventory. Now, this saves you a shitload of space that I wish I'd have had at the start of the game. Because, let me tell you, it's about a 10th of your inventory taken up by that one weapon, and if you equip it in that melee slot, you get all that back for free, and it still behaves normally as a regular weapon. And lastly, make sure to holster your weapon with H or by hitting its associated number button when not in combat or when fleeing to get your maximum speed. You can't outrun anything otherwise, and I do mean anything. You're way too slow, and especially during reloads, you are horribly, horribly vulnerable. Now, there were other things that I would have considered issues or gripes with the game. However, there are things that are expected to come as the game gets more updates, as it's still in early access. Beginning with, the developers have said they plan to add inventory expansions into the game and plan to stack them with New Game Plus upgrades. Though I'm fairly sure you can go into the console commands and just do that now, though there is no in-game purchasable upgrades at this time. New areas are also being slated to be added into the game, though at the latest recording, we have the Lampfire Power Station. Controller support is also due to be added in, and it even has an option in the menu to enable, though you can't actually interact with it yet because it has not been implemented. It also plays great on my Steam Deck with no frame drops or stutters from my testing, but it does require you to remap your controls to get all the functions, due to there being no controller support yet. There's also an unused mine stat as well as a notification in your inventory that you haven't researched something, but these features haven't been implemented or explained as of this writing, so maybe we could see some powers later on, or maybe buffs from gibbing and researching specific parts of enemies. Who knows? Either way, it's a lot to look forward to with the game. For my closing thoughts on the game, for only having what I'm going to assume is a small portion of the game done so far, a district and a half out of 6 potentially for the story items alone, it shows a lot of promise both in scope and practice. It takes Dishonored's flavor of stealth and level design and puts it squarely in a setting reminiscent of Bloodborne. What's already released earned an easy 7.5 hours of gameplay for me on the Half Moon normal difficulty, with some parts still feeling challenging, requiring me to reassess and try different strategies to get through. The game is stable with no audio issues, crashes, softlocks, or game-breaking bugs that occurred during my time with it. This group also has a track record for making great games already, and I'm wholly confident that Gloomwood will infect stealth enthusiasts and those with a fever for its setting alike. For those who prefer more fast-paced or twitchy games, this will be a bit of a hard sell, but if you enjoyed the Dishonored series or even the Thief series, then this will feel like putting on a well-fitted mask as you step out into the riddled, diseased gloom with lantern in hand. Gloomwood will be $19.99 while in early access, but will creep towards $29.99 American as it gets closer to release, so I highly recommend grabbing it early if you're interested. If you've made it this far into the review, thank you for watching. I truly do appreciate it, and if you liked the video, drop a like. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike. Or comment below, tell me what I could have done wrong, anything I could have missed, and if you plan on grabbing the game. If nothing else, I hope to see you all again next time.